David Cameron urges BBC to describe Hamas as terrorist organisation.
Here's a summary of the article.
David Cameron has urged the BBC to describe Hamas as a terrorist organisation, reviving an accusation that the corporation shies away from a valid description of the Islamist group that is holding Israeli hostages. The UK Foreign Secretary told the BBC's Laura Kunzberg that the organisation should reconsider its guidelines in light of a video released by Hamas showing the British-Israeli hostage Nadav Popplewell, who the group said had died in Gaza. Hamas released a statement on Saturday saying the 51-year-old had died after being wounded in an Israeli airstrike a month ago. He added, "And when you see what Hamas are prepared to do, you just realize the terrible, dreadful, inhuman people, frankly, that we are dealing with." Maybe it's a moment actually for the BBC to ask itself again, shall we describe these people as terrorists? They are terrorists. The BBC calls Hamas a prescribed terrorist organisation, but has been reluctant to go further for fear it could be seen to be taking sides in the conflict. In a statement after meeting the Board of Deputies of British Jews in October, the BBC said it does not use the word terrorist without attributing it, nor do we ban words. A BBC spokesperson said, "No one consuming BBC News can be left unaware of the horrific nature of Hamas acts."
This post received a score of 6,500, with an upvote ratio of 87%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
I don't understand the statements by the BBC that are quoted in the article. They do not want to appear to pick a side? Did they handle us in the same way? They did not call Hamas militants for some days? What does that even mean?
In terms of ISIS, they actually did act similarly. I remember when people on Reddit wanted ISIS to be referred to as Daesh, partially due to that being seen as a derogatory name to them. The BBC said they wouldn't, as that would be taking a side. At least that's how I remember it.
Greater than being seen as a derogatory name. Which was always pretty stupid, because that's what they called themselves.
No, they don't. They consider it a pejorative. It's an acronym based on their official Arabic name, but they don't use said acronym themselves. It was specifically created to insult them. The acronym is very similar to the Arabic word days, which means, one who crushes, or tramples down, something underfoot, and similar to his, which means, one who sows discord.
From all the criticisms of the BBC, the terrorists thing is the least justified. Remember when they were told a man identified in F-35 in the night sky saw a missile from it striking a hospital, and they just accepted it? No questions asked? And their corrections being basically hidden? Out of all things, this is the least interesting criticism, created for headline generation.
This particular debacle made me stop reading BBC entirely, whereas I used them as my main source of global news before this. They completely discredited themselves as a news organization, and to dispel any doubts, they allowed other similar debacles favoring Hamas at around the same time.
This bothered me too. I don't think the BBC is itself biased. I actually think it's the most accountable news organization in the world. The BBC reports on itself. Others don't do that. They are also fairly good on retractions and being as open as possible about most things. I think this did demonstrate though how few fail-safes there are between people with an agenda and the information that gets fed to us. In my head, there was absolutely no way that could have got through, but the reality is that it only takes one or two people who have their own opinions for it to make it to air.
The BBC did a show and covered this particular incident, called out the head the BBC on why they did what they did. It's called the BBC Media Show, and one of the best shows the BBC does about the media and journalism, covering a wide range of topics. Here is the episode in question: Gaza Hospital Blast, Searching for the Facts.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.